Hello and welcome to Founders Amplified, where we spotlight underrepresented founders who are driving innovation and impact across various industries and sectors across the globe. I'm your host, Narayan Kulkarni, and I'm excited to be here with you today. Today's guest is Gabriela Mena. Gabriela Mena is the co-founder and CEO of Polybit. Gabriela identifies as a Guatemalan-Mexican woman and a leader in fintech and urban innovation. She holds a degree in architecture and an MBA, and brings more than 15 years of experience in real estate development, customer experience, and financial technology. Her venture, Polybit, is an infrastructure as a service platform that enables real estate developers in Latin America to access new financing opportunities through tokenization, reducing costs, and unlocking global investor access. Polybit has tokenized over $8.5 million in real estate assets, with $10 million in progress, and a goal of reaching $100 million by the end of 2026. The company has received multiple awards across Mexico and Latin America and is currently part of the Reach Latam Accelerator program. So, now that you know a little bit about Gabriela, let's dive in to the conversation. Welcome to Founders Amplified, Gabriela. Great to have you with us. How are you doing today?
Hello, Narayan. I'm so happy to be here and I'm doing great. Looking forward to speak to you today.
Thanks so much. And again, thanks again for being here. Now let's kick things off. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey. So can you tell me and our audience more about what led you to become a founder and if there were any particular moments that sparked that decision?
Well, yeah, for sure. And I'll need to go way back into my journey to tell you that, but let's start. So first thing first, I'm an architect. But before I dropped out of business and economy, and I was very frustrated because when I started studying economy, it was very abstract, like only very long math problems without understanding how to use that on the real world, right? So I changed all my mindset and I go back and ask myself, okay, what do I want to do for this life, like for this world? And I realized I wanted to contribute to make it better, that I wanted to build something to the world, right? And by that, I didn't mean building itself, but really like contribute with something that I could build. And because of that, of course, architecture came to the discussion, and I said, okay, why not? I do like architecture, so let's start there. But I also quickly realized I didn't see myself as a regular architect, even if I admire them and respect them. I didn't see how my passion and my strengths were aligned with that specific path. But something that I realized is that I did like the idea of, again, building something, and came up with something in my mind, understand the surroundings, and define something in concrete as a solution for someone, right? So that utility process was very intriguing for me in a good way. And so I can all my entire career I was looking for, okay, how can I use that in another way? And that's how I came up with real estate development. So when I finished school, I went and started working for a real estate company, in this case in Guatemala, and I was part of the innovation and team who was actually looking for what the idea should be about this project, where it makes sense to build it, how, like from a financial point of view, from architectural point of view, from construction, marketing, sales, put all that together as a business plan in order to be able to actually build the project. So then I realized, okay, maybe I do have some economics within this, like maybe the layers start like just uh, peeling, but also making sense. So then I decided to go into innovation because at the end, the process behind building this project from scratch was an innovation process, right? You needed to start with a prototype and try and go fast, fail fast as well, and then test it with real potential customers, and then go back and refine and do it again, you know? So I learned about innovation a lot, about the processes. I became a facilitator in Google Sprints, in design thinking, and that opened my whole perspective to, okay, this is a process that can actually be uh, followed not only in real estate, but actually in any other thing. So I kind of started having this like T experience where you have a broader perspective from an innovation point of view, but then a deep learning or understanding of one industry, which was in this case real estate. But I definitely started working with other companies as well. In the meantime, I was intrigued by what is this thing about entrepreneurship. I'm talking about 15 years ago. At least in Latam, you didn't hear that much about entrepreneurship itself. I heard about it because the director of the company where I used to work was part of that specific MBA, an MBA in entrepreneurship. And I was like, what is that? You know, like, oh, it's something where you can learn how to build a company. And I was like, oh my God. So I could use like this same processes of innovation, but to also build a company. That was, I was amazed by that process. And I started with one course and I fall in love so fast with that process that I decided to do all the MBA, half in Guatemala and half in Austin, where the like the first campus was. So I got the huge opportunity to learn from the founders of that MBA. It's called the Acton MBA, and and it was amazing. So when I came back to Guatemala, I part of my milestones were, okay, I want to keep working. I want to keep learning. I think there's a lot of things that I want to learn in a company before building mine. But I knew that I wanted to build a company for my own in a moment. You know, like first things I thought it will be a few years. It took me a little bit longer, but I knew that that was part of my journey, you know. So I keep working on innovation with real estate. I started working with fintechs as well, learning a lot about exponential technology. So very curious about how to keep learning and applying what I was learning. That was something very important to me until I realized, okay, now it is the moment to jump, uh, because there is a moment that you maybe learn enough and you also could be in your comfort zone. And for me, it was important that whenever that happens, you need to think, okay, what is the next step? What is the next stage in your life? And for me, it was uh, start my company, right? So the process there became very, very straightforward in the sense that at first I work on myself to be prepared from an emotional point of view as a person, you know, like I am, what do I need to work on me to shift from an employee to become now entrepreneur. Even if I was kind of an entrepreneur, you know, I needed to work on me. Then I work on defining what was the right project to do, like an opportunity funnel, deciding what should be the project. And I put some deadlines with me as well. So I signed up for a startup competition, in 3 months. So I had 3 months to decide something, you know, in my opportunity funnel of opportunities. Okay, something, I have to pick one and work on that and present it to a people and to a board and see how it goes. And I did that, and that helped a lot in the process. And that's how Polybit started, basically.
Wow, amazing. I love hearing your story, the arc from architecture into then innovation and how like it sounds like there's been a lot of journey and growth, learning and growth, and that's amazing. So thank you so much for sharing in detail what your journey's been like. I'd love to go in depth more specifically into Bollywood. And was there any particular turning point or experience that you had that led you to start Bullybit or like think about tokenizing real estate in Latin America as an actual solution to a problem that you've seen?
For sure. When I was working and building this new projects, it is also an opportunity funnel process, right? Whenever you are building the prototypes and refining them, some will go through the next level and others will be rejected during the process, right? And that's normal in any real estate company who's developing new projects, right? But something that was very frustrating for me specifically was when we have this amazing project that has like market fit, like a very positive impact to the surroundings, went to all of the process, but then was rejected because of the expected returns. So what is the expected returns like? Well, companies are here to make an impact, but also to be profitable, right? And if you don't get to a specific target, that project won't be done. And even if it's great, even if it's solving a lot of problems or needs, even if there is market fit, you won't do it because you are looking for projects with that specific target, right? So it was very frustrating to see those projects go away just because of that. And so we started looking for new ways to finance that type of projects, right? Looking for new structures to be able to bring, well, cheaper and faster capital to the table. And guess what? There was none. There were no options in any market in Latam, at least. So we were looking for ideas and examples in Europe, in the US, but whenever we would try to tropicalize them, that wasn't possible because the system was too immature, because financially speaking, there wasn't not a way, the legal framework was not here for us to use it, or simply it was so hard to bring that idea to Latam that it became so complicated that it didn't make sense. Real estate development, it is already a very complex operation. So you don't want to put another level of complexity, right? So at the end, we ended up with the same ideas or the same systems that were available, which it's okay, like they're okay, but they have their own conditions and they will change those conditions based on the macroeconomics, right? Uh, and if you also go to big tickets in private equity, then you go into this concept of opportunity cost. So if you have a lot of money, you have a power to negotiate, right? So then that's what happens in real estate. So people will try to find the best way where they can invest their money if they have a lot of money, right? So, but if you are looking for someone who wants or expect less return, no one is there to, like that does who wants to do that, right? So there is a broken system. And something that is amazing is like 10 years later, that problem's still here. Crowdfunding didn't answer the real problem because at the end it is not scalable through countries. It is even forbidden in some of the countries, or is very so highly regulated that it doesn't solve the problem again, because you cannot scale it, you cannot do pretty much a lot of things, you need so many collaterals. So at the end, you're still an intermediary at the end, right? So it didn't make
Mhm.
sense. And that's what, like spark on me when I was looking for what could I solve that I truly care, that I knew how to solve and how with technology. And because tech people doesn't talk real estate and real estate people doesn't talk tech, right? And I saw the opportunity to be the gap filler between those two industries.
Well, so many amazing things you shared. Two things that really stood out were, for example, talking about, as you just shared, being someone who can connect the dots between real estate and tech. The other thing was understanding that, like, in the regional context of Latin America, there are like structural challenges or potential like aspects of that ecosystem. And I see this because I've mentored entrepreneurs, I mentor youth who are in Latin America who want to work in that context. But this is a challenge that they've also seen, where like that innovation can be particularly salient in a particular geographical context. So those are things that I appreciate that you shared. But talking more about that, but kind of going in a different perspective, I'd like to know more about the perspective that you bring. So, as a Guatemalan Mexican woman who is leading a fintech startup and in Latin America, what are some unique angles or perspectives that you bring into that ecosystem or in general? And are there any particular changes or different things you'd like to see in entrepreneurship?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's not only me who is co-founding this company. Marta is the CDO and the co-founder of this company. She's a Mexican, and so we are two women leading this company, and I'm very proud of that because
Mhm.
not because I am a female defender, not that, but because I do think that we live in a world where men and women can provide perspective from a different angle, and that's the beauty of it, right? So women, I will say that we think in connections as a network, right? So by understanding that you can connect this dot with this dot and realize that this project could be solved this way, and understand that this framework can solve the problem of this person, like our brain is wired in that way, right? So I think one of the best, that's one of the secret sauce in our company, like because our brain works that way, and we can see those connections because this at the end is something very new. Even if there is a lot of progress with blockchain and tokenization, especially in the last few years and few months, where this innovation is actually getting into an inception point where it is becoming to it is being adopted by institutional companies, and that in innovation is a very important milestone, right? To go to massive adoption, it's still very new, especially in emerging markets. So being able to connect the dots, being able to help being that breach or gap filler is very important, and that's something that I think we as women do very well.
Thanks for sharing. Um, Can you tell me more about if they're like, so again, it sounds like with your experience with what you've done, you have a, of course, rich perspective. And in solving this problem, what is Folibit doing that might make people turn heads and say, I've never thought about tokenization in that way or in this like particular context? Can you share more about that?
For sure. So tokenization at the end is a representation. It has two parts, right? The first part is making something digital, and the second part is that process of that representation in the digital world to be recorded on blockchain, right? Which is by in very simple words, a decentralized system of registration, which makes It looks very simple, but makes the whole difference, right? Because you don't need middlemen to make all the settlements. Those settlements are done by themselves without anyone saying it happened or not. The system will take care of that, right? So because of that, all these real world assets have the opportunity of becoming digitalized again and registered in a way that they haven't been able to be registered before, when you will need a notary, people signing all over the places in every paper, waiting for settlements, waiting for banks between even countries, to make that transfer of value available. And now you don't need those middlemen anymore. It's huge, right? So for countries like Guatemala, Mexico, or for regions, emergent regions like Latam, where the systems are broken, the financial systems are immature, with this type of systems, we can leapfrog all of that. We no longer need to wait to all the systems to be more mature or the laws to be ready. Now we can do something without waiting that, because we are so behind, right? Compared to the US or Europe. But now we can fill that gap so easily, so fast. Maybe a good example is El Salvador, for instance. So El Salvador was growing in a very, I will say, normal way for Latam. And now, because this ecosystem has been enhanced, they're growing faster than ever. They don't need this whole system to be ready. The system leapfrog that part, and now they are looking for attracting investors. They're building projects that weren't even, like you didn't even thought about or dream about having those type of projects in El Salvador. And I really appreciate El Salvador. I'm not trying to talk bad from them, not on the contrary. I really think it is an amazing example of how a whole country, a whole economy was behind, and now is like progressing in months, what other countries, for them, they took years or centuries, right? So for real estate specifically, it is an opportunity to move faster, move stronger, get engagement, make people participate in the value that can be created. So for instance, Latam is growing in an 80% pace of urbanization. That's huge.
80%.
80,
Wow.
no, yeah, 85%.
85. Wow. Okay.
85%
Wow.
of our countries are moving from the rural to the urban and areas. So people are looking for houses, infrastructure, buildings to work, buildings where they can go and have fun, so anything that you need in an urban place. Only in Mexico, they need to invest 4% of their GPD for the next 20 years to be able to tackle the demand of houses that they have, which is 800K by year. It is enormous. So if you think, okay, that's the gap that needs to be solved, but the financial capital is not there to provide that alignment so those projects can be done, we have a huge problem, right? In Mexico right now, the buildings are so expensive and people don't have the money, so they cannot get the debt to be able to buy, like the mortgage to get able to buy that property. So you have a big, but they still need somewhere to live, and the real estate company built this project to be sold, not to rent it. So now you have a problem. because they're going to go on bankruptcy, and people are still looking for ways where to live, right? So there is a shift in the economy because there is a gap here that is not cannot be filled, and that's where getting access to new ways to finance your project can make the difference.
Again, amazing. Thanks so much for your very rich explanation. As you know, like in these interviews, I also asked about impact, but you answered two questions in one, which I love. That like you talked both about how you're like providing innovative approach to tokenization, and then the immense economic as well as multidimensional impacts that enables for an entire country. So thank you for your very rich, very insightful answer. Now it sounds like you've had a really amazing journey to get to this point. I think you've told me that like you've reached 8.5 million US dollars or more than that in tokenized assets with Bolibit. And can you tell me like just because we're nearing the end of this interview, what are how has that journey felt, and what are maybe one or two key lessons you've learned in that process?
Okay, well, I have to definitely have to say that it is a roller coaster, and you can pretty much, I will say, feel the whole spectrum of emotions working on a startup and building a startup, from being excited to feel like this is the best day of my life, and then the next day will be the worst day of your life, and then you think you know something, and then you think you know nothing. All that spectrum you'll get by being a founder. I think I've been here. That's something that any founder can say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is. And so what I have learned in this process, that you'll need to grow with your startup, in the sense that you need to be a better founder, you need to be a better person, you need to build resilience, you need to be able to cope to your emotions, you need to be able to support real pain, and maybe not like physical pain, but psychological pain, emotionally pain, like it is an endurance process. So I think that one of the biggest insights for me so far is that if you want your company to grow, you have to work on yourself as much as on your company. That's very important. Then it is definitely an endurance with sprints within, but it is an endurance. So because it is an endurance, you have to think, okay, I have to save energy for all of this. Like if you're running a marathon, which I do, so that's why I like this. Like it is, you cannot lose all your energy in the first 5K, or otherwise you're gonna die. It's like, don't die in this process. It's gonna come. And then you do not have to answer all your questions from day one. It is just impossible. New hypotheses will be prioritized each time. New questions will arise, and you need to address the most important ones. Otherwise, you're gonna be focusing on so many things that you're not focusing on any of those, right? And then when things get very, 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 very hard and very difficult, just remember the why. Like, why are you doing this? So every time I have a very bad day or even a good day, I ask myself, am I doing the right thing, in the sense of, is this my journey? Is this where I want to be instead of being anyone else? And the answer is always yes. So I know I'm in the right path. And I think that is very hard to answer, but it is the most important question.
Wow, well said. Thanks for your amazing lessons. So, how can people find you, and how can they support your work?
Amazing. Thank you. Well, they can follow us on LinkedIn and look for Polybit. We are also on all the social media with polybit.io. They can come to our website and check polybit.io as well. And if you're looking, and if there are real estate companies listening to us, or funds that are looking for better ways to manage all their systems, please look to us, come to us. You can also look me at LinkedIn, and I'll be more than happy to not only to share what we've learned, but also see how we can collaborate, right? At the end, we're here again trying to make how we can build a better world. And if we can join forces and collaborate, that's something that we're more than open to discuss.
Thanks so much, Gabriela. And to our listeners, you can find Gabriela's information in the show notes, so please take a look. Now it's time for our signature question. So can you please fill the blank? I fill in the blank. I amplify.
Wow, wait. I amplify. Value.
Wow. I took a moment to think, because the word value, there's so many different connotations around what that means. But in the context of this conversation, that was a very rich, very insightful answer. And I think this is also, like, I want to end on this note and say thank you so much, Gabriela, for taking the time to be here, share your journey, share your insights about many different things. It was really cool to learn more about your story, learn more about the innovative work you're doing, and also all the positive impacts. I mean, I have, for example, watched some of your interviews. I've read about your work, but it was really amazing to understand more about you and what you're doing. And I want to take a moment to pause and just reflect on this conversation and say, first of all, I want to celebrate you for just being a fantastic founder and a leader in LATAM, and an underrepresented founder who is like driving innovation in real estate, fintech, and the world. I also want to reflect on this conversation, and there's some things that really stood out, which I just want to highlight. So first of all, I really loved how whenever I asked you questions, the depth with which you shared and the eloquence with which you shared was amazing, and I applaud that. I think that's a skill that takes a lot of difficulty to cultivate. I work with a lot of founders that do that, and you've shown amazing skill. Also, I love you talked about this in several fashions where people who are very technically oriented, whether in architecture in your case, I've worked with a lot of people who are like in medicine and other fields, like making that jump and being able to articulate consciously how they did that can be a struggle. So I applaud the self-awareness that you have, which you've had. And also you've talked about the importance of personal development. And I think that's like amazing. And I applaud you for recognizing and sharing that with our audience. And also when you talked about impact innovation, the systems thinking and the way that you bring empathy into that, I think, is also really amazing. So those are things that really stood out to me and that I received from this conversation. And I want to really applaud you for sharing. For me, those stuck out, but just in general, thank you for sharing everything that you shared in this amazing conversation.
Thank you to you. Thanks to you. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that insights. It really makes me very grateful. I'm very happy to be able to share a little bit of what I've learned with this amazing community, and thanks to you as well, because you're giving opportunity to people like us to come here and hopefully inspire others to find their way to make value to the world, because that's where we're here at the end. So thank you so much.
You're most welcome, Gabriela. So again, thanks so much for a fantastic conversation. I look forward to staying in touch, but for now, I'd like to say goodbye. Bye for now.
Goodbye. Thank you.
To our listeners, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Founders Amplified. I hope you're feeling as inspired as I am. If you'd like to learn more about our guests and support them, check out the show notes for their details. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a rating, share it with someone you know, and follow us for more inspiring episodes like this one. If you're a founder who is driving innovation and impact in any industry or sector anywhere in the world and would like to be a guest, we'd love to hear from you. Check out the show notes for more information. And finally, remember that you, yes, you, have the power to amplify the voices around you. Whether you're a colleague, family member, friend, funder, mentor, or just another fellow human, your support matters. So I invite you to celebrate and uplift the underrepresented innovators in your life who are driving innovation and impact. Let's create a better future for everyone, together. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and keep amplifying.